What is the function of nervous system for us? Firstly, I bring you one introduction for you. And in this introduction, I try to answer some questions, some preliminary questions about the nervous system. And then discuss about the elements that generate the nervous system. Also, I will discuss about the categorization or about the elements and function of the nervous system. Categorization of the nervous system into different parts. And then finally, we will start to discuss about sensory system. One part of the brain is sensory system, and this at the end of this class, and then the other two sessions that I have with you, I will discuss about the sensory system. After that, after three sessions, Dr. Jafari will discuss about other sensory systems, spatial sensory systems such as visual system, hearing, taste, smell, and also other function of the brain such as motor function and higher function of the brain will be discussed with you by Dr. Jafari. Therefore, I try to come for first three sessions and discuss about the brain. First question that we have and we can have at the beginning of this lecture is that when we are talking about nervous system, we should answer this question: what nervous system do for us? And if we have an answer to this question, then we can move on to other subjects. The answer to this question is very simple. Nervous system enable us to be aware of our environment, internal or external environment, receiving information from outside and inside the body, and send the information to a center, and a proper response that is generated. We should respond to our environment. You cannot even imagine that we are not able to respond to our environment, because our environment is full of signals or factors that may be dangerous for us. Okay? Inside our body, there are lots of information that we should be aware of them. If do not be aware, it could be dangerous for us. For example, if my blood pressure drops, I told you about blood pressure and function of blood pressure before in the last semester, those who were passed, inshallah. You remember that I told you the blood pressure is being monitored all the time, second by second, millisecond by millisecond. This is impossible to imagine that we are not monitoring the blood pressure. You know that if we do not monitor the blood pressure show a fluctuation, and it can be even dangerous to the life. Therefore, brain should be able to receive the information about the blood pressure, about the blood glucose, about the blood oxygen, about the change in the viscera, the distension of the viscera. All this information are important, and we should answer to them. We should respond to them. In the outside of our body, in the environment, again, we have lots of information that we should respond to them. This is impossible to imagine that we do not respond to the event that is happening around us. For example, I try to move my hands, move my hand toward your head. You should respond to this. It can be dangerous. Weather is changing. It is very too hot, too cold. You should respond to it. And this is the function of the nervous system. Nervous system receives the information, compare it, and generate the response, and generate the response. Sometimes the responses are very simple, like reflexes. Sometimes it is very complicated. For example, if I told you that, for example, I have a bad news, for example, for you, and I realize that your car is being stolen, you try to respond. The response is not just a reflex. You try to calculate in your brain, analyze what I can do. I should call police. I should do something. This is completely different and complex. When we talk about the nervous system, we should therefore know that function of the nervous system could be categorized roughly into three parts. Sensory function. Sensory function means that sensory information is being gathered, received, and sent to the center, and from a stimuli that occurring inside or outside. And then this information in the brain should be processed. This is named as integration function of the brain. What is the meaning of integration? Integration means these information should be put together and making them meaningful. You know that some information are just some action potentials. This action potential that reach the brain should become meaningful. For example, I see a word here. This is a word. This is not a sensory information. And you are able to read this. Or even you are hearing me. You hear my sound, and this information is being sent to the brain, but brain is responsible to decode the information and make it meaningful. Sometimes some information are not meaningful. Or brain is not able to make it meaningful. If you say a word in Arabic to me, and I have no information about it, I cannot understand. I hear you, but I cannot decode this information. What is the meaning of this? This is the function of the brain. Brain makes the information meaningful. And then another function of the brain is to respond to this meaning that is generated. For example, if I ask you, please raise your hand. Yes. This was the response. Firstly, you receive the information. Then your brain decodes this information. What is the meaning? Please raise your hand. Irfa yadak. And then you then decide to respond. What is the response? Response was moving them. You may say, I'm not going to do it. This is also a response. If you say, no, I'm not. I do not obey this order. This is another response. The response is generated by your brain. And your brain firstly was able to decode the information. If you were not able to understand what I'm going to say, what I'm saying, you were not able to respond. Response was generated by the brain. And then the third part of the brain. The third part of the brain is motor part, motor unit. In the motor, it's better to say motor system. In the motor system, the order that is generated in the brain is implemented, is carried out, executed, your hand was right. You know, you may decide to do something, but your hand is not. In the spinal injury, the person try to move the hand. Order is issued, but the motor function is not available because motor neurons are disconnected. Therefore, when this guy is seeing that this glass of water, sense that this is a glass of water. Therefore, I am thirsty. I should respond. What is the response? Response is to grasp and lift and drink the water. This is the motor function that is generated by motor system. If we want to have a normal nervous system, all these should be available. We cannot say the nervous system is okay, sensor is working, motor is working, but the center is not working. Everything will be lost. Like those who are in coma. You know that in a coma, sensory information is being sent into the brain. And motor muscles are also normal, but there is no response. All of them should be available. About the sensory system and the nervous system, we have different type of classification. Sometimes this classification is based on the anatomical classification or categorization. Anatomical. For example, anatomically, we say central nervous system is composed of two parts. One part is named as nervous system is composed of two parts. One part is central nervous system. Another part is peripheral nervous system. It's very clear. Central nervous system include brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system include the autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system that are coming out from the spinal cord. In another perspective, we can categorize the nervous system according to the function. We say nervous system could be classified into central nervous system, or the center that I told you mediate the behavior, responses, integration of the information. One part is somatic nervous system. Somatic nervous system means the functions, motor and sensory function that is under our control. We are aware of them, and they are conscious. And another part is autonomic nervous system, that the response and sensing the information and responding to the information is completely unconscious. For example, we have respond in our stomach, in our intestine. Nobody in this class can say that I am controlling my stomach. Movement of a stomach is under my control. No. Brain receives the information from the intestine and then respond to it without being without allowing us to be aware of it. This is autonomic nervous system. But somatic nervous system is the sensation that we have. For example, I am touching this screen, this monitor, and I'm able to respond to it and say that this is the monitor. This is a speaker, this is a keyboard, and so on. When we talk about nervous system, you should know that nervous system generally is composed of some cells, like other part of the body. Every part of the body, every organ is composed of different type of cells. In the brain, in the nervous system, the type of cell that generate the nervous system are named as neurons. Neurons. And neurons are the element functional elements that are working for us. But neurons are not the only part of the brain. There are lots, very high number of other cells named as glia. Glia are not involved in the sending and receiving the information. They are responsible for supporting the neurons, helping the neurons to work normally, remove the waste material, providing metabolites, helping the neuron to differentiate, helping the neuron to divide, and so on. Therefore, these gilias are helping the neurons, and we have lots of different type of glia, such as astrocyte, oligodendrocyte, microglia, and so on. And you know that even neurons, that I told you neurons are the basic structure that are working in the brain, are not the same. All of them are not the same. Some neurons, they have a common structure. A neuron has a cell body, a dendrite network, and also one axon. This is a common structure that we have about a neuron. But the neurons are different. For example, we have sensory neurons that are like this. We have bipolar neurons. We have interneurons that you see. The axons are very small, but dendrites are very complex. We have motor neurons that you see. They have a very long axon, sometimes several centimeters, and a network of dendrites. And all of these networks are working together. You know that sometimes neurons can be categorized according to their function. We say some neurons are inhibitory, some neurons are excitatory. It means the function of the neuron is inhibiting other neurons or exciting other neurons. You know that about 20% of cortical neurons are inhibitory. And you know, the balance between the inhibition and activation determine that how much of function of the neuron is needed. And you know about the patient with seizure, masroor, seizure. You know that they have uncontrolled neuronal activities in the brain, just because the balance between the inhibition and activation is being disturbed. And this is also seen in the different type of disorders. You know that neurons are different. Sometimes the neurons are the same as structurally, but they release different type of neurotransmitters. For example, we have neurons that release dopamine. The same neuron structurally in other part of the brain release neurotransmitters serotonin. In another part, a neuron like this release glutamate. Another neuron releases acetylcholine. And therefore we have in the neuroscience, we use the term dopaminergic neuron, cholinergic neuron, serotonergic neuron. It means that they receive serotonin or so. And neurons, basically, we can say that neurons generate the action potential. Therefore, the function of the neuron is generating electrical impulses, then sent to the other neurons, and then other neurons. A network is formed. Neurons, by this function, are a unit of information. These information that we have in our brain are stored in different elements that are neurons. And also, neurons are plastic. Do you know what I mean by plastic? I do not mean that they are soft. They are able to change their function. Sometimes they are increasing their function. Sometimes they're decreasing their function. Sometimes they are changing their structure. The number of dendrite is increasing or decreasing. The amount of neurotransmitter that is released is increasing or decreasing. This is showing that neurons are not fixed. We cannot say neurons are fixed. Nothing is changing. Nothing is changing. It is changing. Neurons are changing. Even now, some neurons in your brain are changing themselves according to the situation that you have. If you were going to memorize these concepts or understand this concept, some neuron in your brain start to change to store this information into your brain. Condition in the, if you listen to these words. Those who are not listening, neurons are not changing. But those who are listening and has the attention and priority to store this information, some neurons are changing to store this information. Therefore, neurons are plastic, and they are like a very soft material that you can form it in different shapes. And this is very important. You see in this figure that some neurons receive the sensory information sent to another neuron. Some receive receive information from another neuron. Some from local interneuron, receive the local interneuron and then sent to the another neuron, and so on. By the way, let me to say another extra word. And this is about a principle that we have in the brain. And this principle is that brain, the economy of the brain is very important. If some neurons are working, brain provides energy and space for these neurons. But those neurons that are not used, they will be lost. Those neurons that are less used, the dendrite size and the axon size, the number of synapses will decrease. This is a rule. Do you know what I mean? I mean that our brain is very, very conservative. Try to check if one neuron is not using, it should be replaced by another neuron, another function. And the principle that we have in the brain is named as use it or lose it. يعني يستعمل أو
إذا لا تستعمله
تخسر. When we do not use a neuron in our brain remove it or do not provide energy for it, a space for it. Let me give you one example. In animals the animals that are born infants, newborns, when we close the eyes of these animals for 1 week to 2 weeks, close. Do not allow the light to affect the eyes. You know what will happen? They will be blind. You know why? The neuron in the brain that are responsible for sensing the visual sensation has nothing to do. Therefore, brain ignores it. And sometimes it is the reverse. It is not just for infants, or even for adults, for me and you. When we use our hands, for example, to play piano, to, for example, write something or do another artwork, these neurons in the brain will be growing up, number of dendrite will increase, the number of neurons will increase. But when we do not use our hand for a long time, this part will be lost. Not immediately, over time. For this reason, musicians have a brain that is different than mine, because they are able to hear the different type of sounds. Their cortical area, parietal area of cortex that is responsible for hearing is well developed. They are able to detect different type of notes to get from each other. But for me, it is not possible, because I have not such neurons. My neurons are less than the neuron of that musician. This is the rule that we have in our brain. Therefore, on the other hand, when you use your brain frequently for different function, your brain will respond. We have no limitation for the brain. No limitation. Brain is not like a computer that is being full. We do not reach a level that we can say that at this level, brain is full. Let me clear some information, previous information. No, it's not like this. Brain is able to upgrade itself. What about the other way? The other way is that if you do not use your brain, this will be lost. Use it or lose it. What I mean by this word is that nowadays that we do not use our brain.
Is the brain didn't full because it wanted something to get something in you?
Once more.
Why is the brain does not get full?
What does?
Why does the brain not get full?
Why the brain
Doesn't get full. Does it
Because we forget
Forget.
a lot of
forget?
yes.
Forget means that you know that when we have some type of information in the brain, this information sometimes is not very is not long-term memory. Therefore, it will be lost. It is cache memory. It is transient memory. Sometimes long-term memory, we say that they are being forget. This is not forget. Most of the time, these are not available. They are in the brain, but we are not able to find it. For this reason, sometimes you say, I am not remembering this event, this word, this guy. But after a while, you say, yeah, I remember. Therefore, the information was in the brain. We were not able to find it. Sometimes it is because some neurons are lost. For example, in Alzheimer's disease, neurons that have the information are being lost. Therefore, the information also is being lost. I was talking about the principle of use it or lose it. What is the importance? The importance is that nowadays that we use our brain less frequently, unfortunately, we should expect bad event to happen for us. You know that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we used to memorize numbers. For example, my father, your father was memorizing 100 phone number. Now, can you say how many number you have in your brain? Phone number, nothing, because everything is your mobile phone. Information, everything is your mobile phone. Notes in your mobile phone. Information in your mobile phone. Navigation, when you are navigating in the street, in your mobile phone. You know that we are using we do not use our brain, and instead mobile. You should expect that after 20 years, our brain is being less active than it should be, and it is a danger that we have. Anyway, when we are talking about neurons, neurons are like a factory. They generate neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters are moving across the axon to the axon end, and in the axon end, they are ready to be released. They are ready to be released. But they are not released until the time that one action potential reaches this area. When action potential reaches this area, immediately the factor will be released. And for this reason, neurons are very fast. One function that neuron has is that they send the information with very high level of speed. If neurons are the basic part of the brain, we can imagine and expect that higher number, the intelligence is related directly to the number of neurons. And this is showing this concept. As you see, for example, in a snake, very simple snake, such as a squid or pond snake, they have just 11,000 neurons. When it comes to the frog, about 16 million neurons are available. These frogs are able to detect the insects, hunt them, eat them, make mating, and so on. Respond to them. They are not able to solve a problem. They are not able to do complex tasks. When it comes to the rat, about 200 million. When it comes to the monkey, about 6 billion neurons. And finally, human, about 86 billion neurons. And you can imagine what is the difference between us and animals. Sometimes in some fish animals are better than us. For example, in SNAP, in visual system. But their brain is not able to use this information. But our brain, because of this very, very high level number of neurons, is able to do better and better. And for this reason, you can imagine, you can compare the weight of a pig, for example, a monkey, and finally a human. And you see in the human, the weight of the brain is about 1.5 kilograms compared to the weight of the, for example, monkey.
But how we calculate neuron cells?
We calculate the,
Yes. How we calculate the number?
this number.
Yes.
You know that it is a ratio. We can imagine, we can calculate the number in some very small space, and then according to the weight, this was calculated. This is not an exact number. I cannot say that I have 86 million billion. No, it's around this number. But the number is high. And you know that in patients that, for example, Alzheimer patient that brain is being atrophied, this number decreased to very low level. And you know in the severe Alzheimer disease, you see when you have an image, the brain is shrinked, small. Therefore, they are not able even to remember the name of the children's or the localization of or the address or anything. And you know they are severely damaged. And sometimes in those patients that are being injured in the accident, in one accident, you see that some part of the brain is being lost. These are not able. You will see in the neurological wards that patients that with a stroke are not able to do anything or some tasks.
Excuse me, I read on the internet the same update making lead to brain erosion. Is this?
As I told you, This is the classification that I told you. We have central nervous system, including the brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system, including the somatic and autonomic nervous system, and that are coming out from the central nervous system, and I told you about it. When we talk about the I told you that the brain can be classified into sensory, motor, and center. The sensory part sometimes is named as afferent or the afferent sensory division. I told you that this division sends the information from receptors. The receptors are spread all around the body. Receive this information, send to the brain. And the viscera, it is composed of somatic and viscera. And the motor division also receive the information or send the information from the cortex into the muscle, finally to the muscles. This is motor division. And between this pathway, we have some centers that are very important, such as cerebellum, basal ganglia, and also nuclei such as putamen, globus pallidus, and so on. These are responsible for movement. Collectively, let me compare the brain with a computer. It's better to say computers are a model of the brain. In this system, a problem will be received as input. This input will be sent to the computer. Then computer will process this information input through the CPU, central processing unit. And this CPU will interpret the result, and then some of this result will be stored as information into the brain, and some will be returned to you, be used for making the evaluation better and better, and finally generate an output. Brain is working like this, but let me say, brain is more complex than the computer, because brain do the processing very fastly, and sometimes this processing is able to be changed. I say that brain learn to respond to one stimulus better and better and better and better. But computer is at least older version of computer that they have not machine learning are not able to change their response. All the thing that you see here about machine learning, AI, is that these computers are now trying to mimic the brain function, use the new information to change their behavior, change their response. Previously, when a computer received information, the response was unique. It was not changing. But nowadays, the computer use the information to change their response. This is the function that brain do for us. I told you that brain is composed of neurons, and then neurons are units that are connected to each other. Next question: how the neurons are connected to each other? How one signal from one neuron is sent to another neuron? This movement of information from one unit to another unit is taking place in the synapses. Synapse. You should be able to describe the synapse, meaning of synapse for yourself. What is the meaning of synapse? Synapse means the connection that we have between them. There are two types of synapse. One type of synapse is electrical synapse. In the electrical synapse, two neurons are coming close, very close to each other, and there are some channel between these two neurons that allow a signal to come from one cell to another signal, to another cell. We have action potential or change in the membrane potential in one neuron. This change means the ion concentration is changing in this neuron. This ion is able to move from this gap junction from one neuron to another neuron. Therefore, the another neuron also shows such change, such action potential, or such change in the membrane potential. As you see, in this type of synapses, action potential is not needed. Even very small change in the membrane potential could be transmitted to another neuron. And also in the electrical synapses, the response is or the movement of response is bidirectional, from one side to another side and from another side to another side. This is the bidirectional movement. On the other hand, this is a 0-1 response. Either the response is being transmitted or not. But in another type of synapse, we have name that is named as chemical synapses. In the chemical synapses, the two neurons are not connected to each other. There is a very, very tiny, a small size space between two neurons. This is named as synaptic cleft, the space that we have between two neurons. And how signal is passing through one cell to another cell? It is the neuron that send the information is named perisynaptic neuron. Action potential reaches this part. When action potential reaches this part, it releases some chemical that is being ready in the synaptic end. They are ready. This chemical will be released. These chemicals that are released are named as neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters will affect the receptors on the postsynaptic membrane. And in the postsynaptic membrane, this receptor will generate the response on the postsynaptic neuron. You can see that firstly, the movement of signal is just from one side to another side. From one side to another side. And it is not bidirectional. Just from perisynaptic neuron to postsynaptic neuron. We have not movement from other direction. Another difference that we have is that these neurotransmitters are important and also the receptors are very important. Here, sometimes there are some different neurotransmitters that are being released. Just those neurotransmitters that have a receptor will respond. Those who have not receptor will not respond. The timing of the maintenance of this neurotransmitter in the cleft, the number of receptors, the amount of neurotransmitter are important to determine how much of response will be generated in the dental piece. And it is very, very important. I can say that most type of synapses that we have in the brain are from chemical part. Because chemical synapses are better control and better sending the information. And we have very a small number of synapses that are electrical, particularly in some area of the brain, such as visual system. We have the electrical synapses. Keep in your mind that I will ask you in your exam. For example, the characteristic of the chemical synapses and electrical synapses. You should be able to distinguish. You should be able to distinguish these two. You should be able to distinguish these two parts of synapses from each other. As I told you, synapse is not just a synapse for a cell. Sometimes we have thousands of synapses on one cell. Some synapses are on the dendrites, some synapses on the cell bodies, some synapses on the even the axons. And as you see, these number of synapses, all of them are working. All of them are not the same. You see that there are thousands of neurons that are connected with this neuron. All these neurons are working to generate the response of this neuron. Single. The balance between excitatory synapses, inhibitory synapses, all of them are working to generate the response. And this is another important aspect of the central nervous system. And you see that in the postsynaptic neuron, in the synapse, we have receptor have some intracellular element that generate the responses, and the response also depend on these elements. The responses also depend on these elements. For this reason, sometimes we have some diseases that is because of the process, the problem in these receptors. For example, we have problem in receptor of neurotransmitter. In post-receptor events, channelopathies, pathological event that we see in the synapses. Anyway, let me go forward and for the last part, discuss.
Can we have 5 minutes break?
5-minute break. Until now was just introduction about the nervous system. What is the nervous system, function of the nervous system? This was all introduction. But from now, we have very limited time. Just I have 2 other sessions with you, and I should cover somatosensory system and also pain. Therefore, I may move a little faster. On the other hand, I told one of your representatives that this is the chapter of 46, 47, 8, and 9. And because we have not time to cover all the parts, I just bring you the most important parts. If you want to have a reference, my lecture is your reference. My lecture from the book is reference. But some part that I do not discuss about, the detail that I did not discuss in the class, I will not ask. If you read in the book, it's better. But I do not ask from those parts. Anyway, I told you one part of the nervous system is a sensory system, and this sensory system could be categorized in different parts. And then we are able to discuss about one part of the sensory system. Collectively, we say somatosensory system. Somatosensory system, firstly, we should answer about the sensory system. Firstly, we should answer 2 questions. 1, what sense do for us? What is the importance of sense? I told you about the importance of sense in the introduction part, but again, I want to answer this question in a little more specified way. In the body, sense do for us do 4 piece of work for us. Firstly, give us a perception, a sense about our environment. Give us a map that we are inside it. Everybody in this class, if you close your eyes, everybody has a map of him or herself in the mind. Where are you? Who is sitting around you? Temperature, sound, light, everything is being received. Therefore, brain is completely aware of its surrounding. You are aware of all the event that is happening around you, more or less. This is the function that sensory system do for us. It is a perception. Another function that sensory system do for us is control of movement. You cannot imagine movement without sensory system. You may say, what is the relation? Because movement is being controlled by the feedback information that is sent by the sensory information. Imagine I'm going to lift this speaker. I move my hand toward this. Make my hand like the figure of this speaker. I see it and then realize that how much of change in my finger is enough to grasp it. Then how much of movement is enough to reach it. Now I reach. How much of pressure is needed? This is enough or this is enough? How level of pressure allow me to lift it up? You see that it is impossible to do a function, to do a motor function without sensory system. In animal models or in human, that sensory system is being destroyed because of a stroke, for example. They are not able to do a motor function correctly. For example, in monkeys, when they want to grab a piece of food and put it into the mouth, they do like this. They are not able to find it. Then when they want to eat this piece of food, they like this or like this. They are not able to target it correctly into the mouth. You saw the very young infants or childs that they are not able to do a motor function correctly. When they are eating food, sometimes half a food is being put into the other part of the face. You saw. They are not able to grab the spoon correctly. They are not able to drink water themselves. Do you know why? Because the sensory system and motor system is not completed yet. And this is the function of sensory system that allow us to control movement. Without sensory system, control is impossible. Movement is incorrect. Even though that we are able to move our hand, but we are not able to do a motor function. Another function of the sensory system is regulation of internal organs. I told you that internal organs such as kidneys, such as intestinal system, gastrointestinal system, cardiovascular system, all of them should be regulated. You remember last semester, I told you about regulation of blood pressure. Just imagine if the blood pressure was not regulated. The person was dying. And this is sensory system, function of the sensory system that do for us. You can imagine we have no sensory system for the blood pressure. Immediately, after a little change in the position, my blood pressure will drop and I will die. This is showing the function of sensory system. And finally, maintenance of arousal. We are aroused because of the sensory system. Sensory system send the information to our brain and allow our brain to be turned on, not turned off. And you know that sometimes when you are sleeping, just a sensory input such as sound, such as touch, can wake you up. You are sleeping and just I touch you, you immediately wake up. This is showing the function of sensory system. When we say that sensory information are being sent to the brain, it is very general. We should say which information are sent, which element are being sent into the brain. You cannot say that I just send information of the touch. Which information? This is important. And next question is that sensory system send 4 pieces of information into the brain about the sensory system. Not just a touch, but in this part of information. The first one is the type of modality. When you say that I am sensing a touch in my hand, it means that you are sensing a pressure. When you say I am hearing your sound, you hear a sound, a pressure in your ear, or temperature, or electromagnetic signal. The type of signal is important, and the type of modality, therefore, is a signal that is being sent to the brain. Another signal that is sent to the brain, another piece of information in the sensory system, is localization, location of the information. Where is this? You may say, I am sensing something in my body. This is not good. You should be able in which part of your body. If you are sensing my touch, you should say in which part of the hand, not in my body, somewhere. Those sensory information are good that we are able to detect in which part, it is in which part. And this is another piece of information that is important for us. Localization is not just for touch, it's also for hearing, for visual. For example, I can see a bottle of water over there in 1 meter away from me, in front of me. I can see this chair in the corner of the book. I am able to detect the localization. Or sound. You hear a sound from right side, left side, front. This is a function of the nervous system and sensory system. Another information that is being sent in the sensory system is intensity. How much of pressure you sense? You can say, I am sensing a pressure in my hand. I am able to detect that it is a pressure. And also I can detect the localization. It is in my hand, in my finger. But this pressure and this pressure are not the same. You should be able to detect 2 types of information. You say, this is light, this is severe, this is heavier, or so. You are able, in the hearing system, in the auditory system, you are able to hear a very, very, very low level of sound, like a whisper. And very, very, very high level of sound, like an explosion. Both of them are sound, but one is very low level of sound, another is very high level of sound. Both of them are being heard by the brain. This is another function of the sensory system. We do not sense just pressure, just temperature. We are able to say where it is and with which intensity. And finally, timing. When it was started, when it was finished. You are able. I start to touch your hand. When I touch your hand, you can say, now started, now finished, now started. You are able to detect each on and off signal. This is the information that is important for us. If you are able to, when your mobile phone is ringing and you sense the vibration, vibration is all about the timing, because there is a pressure and cut, pressure, cut, pressure, cut, pressure, cut. You are sensing all of them. You cannot, you do not say, I am sensing something in my hand. No, you say it is vibrating. It shows that according to the time it is changing. And this is another function that the sensory system do for us. Okay, now that I told you about the function of the sensory system, let me to give you an overall categorization of the sensory system. Sensory system could be categorized according to the one criteria. One criteria could be categorized into 4 parts or 4 groups. One group of sensory system is named as general somatic sense. General somatic senses. This is referring to the touch sensation that we have in the skin, pain sensation, temperature. All of this that we have in our skin is general somatic sensation. Keep in mind that somatic sensation means sensation that we are aware of them, we sense them. It is not like the sensation that we have in our stomach. We do not have any sensation. And the receptor for general somatic sensation are spread all around the body. In some areas, such as a hand and tip of finger, it is highly concentrated. In other areas, such as trunk, it's less. And it allows us to sense touch, movement, pressure, vibration, pain, temperature, movement, and so on. Another group of sensory system is named as a spatial somatic sense. Somatic sense means it is conscious, but it is a spatial. Senses that are spatial for smell, for hearing, for visual system. Your visual system is a sense. We are aware of it, but it is a spatial sense, not general sense. The receptors are spatial, the pathway are spatial, the cortex responsible is different and spatial, and so on. Another category or group of sensory system is named as proprioceptor sense. This is quite interesting. On the one hand, it is not referring to the viscera because we do not have any work with the viscera. But on the other hand, it is unconscious. The sensory information are sending from the muscle tendon, from the joints, and even the receptor pressure receptor at the skin. But the information are being sent to the cerebellum. They are not sent to the cortex. And information is used to allow us to realize how our body is working, how our body is positioned, how our muscles are working. For example, how much of pressure I am generating when I am moving this. The level of this pressure, I am not aware of it. You cannot say the pressure in my muscle is, for example, like this. This is not possible. We are not aware of it. But the sensory information is being sent to the cerebellum to allow us to correct the movement. timing of the movement. How much of flexion I need to reach this. How much of flexion I have in my hand, in my arm. Now that I am standing in front of you, the degree and the pressure that I sense in the joints will be sensed by the cerebellum. Even I do not know about it, but I have some information about it. Okay. Even when you are sitting here in your chair, you have a map. Where are your body positioned? For example, my hand is on my leg, but your hand is like this. You have like this. Your legs are. All this information is being sent to the brain. When it is used, every time that we want to have a movement, sometimes this information is also used for control of conscious movement. For example, let me to show you. I am moving forward, and these two guys, your leg was on this part. Their leg was a little open. You realize that your leg is open. And when I start to move in front of you, you didn't look at your leg, but you realize that if I move a little, one step further, I will hit your leg. Immediately you withdraw your head, your leg. Okay? This is proprioceptor. Proprioceptor inform you that your leg is open, and this is your leg. But now it is not possible because you know about it. But when I start to move, and you realize that this movement line will cross the leg, he try to move the body, not allow to reach each other. This is proprioceptor. Proprioceptor allow us to control our movement. For example, when you are walking, how much of pressure I feel in my leg, in my soul. And then when I am able to move one of my leg to forward and another and another. You know, according to these information, we are able to detect. According to this information, we are able to detect our body movement and control our movement. This is proprioceptor. Body sense. The receptors are located on the muscle tendon, joints, and so on. And information is not sent to the cortex. They are sent to the cerebellum. And we use them every time. And finally, we have the final group is visceral sensory system. Visceral sensory system is responsible for sensing the stretch, pain, chemical sensation that we have in our internal organs, such as gastrointestinal system, such as kidney, bladder, vascular system. And I told you about this. And there is another classification that we have in the Guyton, and this is named as a spatial visceral sensation, that is taste. In other books, the taste is coming with other spatial senses. Here, it is coming with the visceral sensation. It's not important. The importance is that we have 5, according to the Guyton, we have 5 categories of sense. Some general somatic sensation, that are the touch sensation, different type of touch, that I will discuss in the next session. Spatial senses that Dr. Jafari will talk about after my session was over. And then proprioceptor and visceral sensation. That visceral sensation is regarded to the autonomic nervous system and the unit. Okay, by this slide,